Good morning and welcome to First Parish Church. My name is Dolly Anagnosis and I'm the third moderator here at First Parish and you can't hear me. It appears to be on. Is that any better? No. The blue light is on. Whoops. Whoa, yay. Not that I have anything all that important to say. My name is Dolly Anagnostis. I'm the current moderator here at First Parish Church. I wanted to let you know that last night we held a pulse-taking potluck, and there were probably about 55 people in attendance. And it was an opportunity for the church council to hear from the church body about what you see as the direction for this church. And it was also the opportunity for the church body to hear from the church council about our very strong recommendation that we hire a full-time pastoral associate. I heard from the church body worries about burnout, about attracting 30 to 40-year-old people to this church, financial concerns, concerns about volunteerism. And yet I also heard a very strong yes, we need to move forward towards hiring a full-time pastor associate. Before the potluck, there were two events which I think are at the heart of who we are that took place. There was a homeless, hungry, diabetic man that came into this building about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Both he and his niece were without food. I asked him to come back at 5:45, which he did, and we fed him with the food that we had and sent him home with food for his niece. There was also a young couple seeking to be married that walked through the doors. They wanted to know what this church believed in and if it might be available for their marriage. I told them that we were a Christian church, the sacraments in which we believed, and that we were open and affirming and what that meant to this church. The woman looked at me and she said, I have chills. And she said, can I see the sanctuary? And so I brought her in here and she saw the sanctuary. And she said, I feel like crying. We have a huge ministry here at First Parish Church. We are the ones that have the ability to address the concerns, to feed the hungry, to marry those who want to be blessed. We lead this with our generosity in sharing our gifts, be they monetary, time-oriented, or sharing talents. We are the face of First Parish Church. In the narthex, you can find some extra handouts that we passed out last night that give a thumbnail sketch about our finances and about our movement forward for a full-time associate pastor. A different hat. There's also a free community cholesterol screening being held Thursday, September 20th from 9 a.m. until noon. It will be done at the Turning Point Cardiac Rehab Center, which is at 96 Campus Drive in Scarborough. You can either see Pam Moline this morning or call Mindy at 661-7204 for an appointment, but walk-ins are also welcome. Fasting is recommended, but not necessary. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Jean Leach. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Circle the date, September 29th, for a family night supper followed by a historical skit with actors from First Parish. This is sponsored by the 250th Anniversary Committee. We had 23 people sign up for the skit last week, so I'm not asking for any more. But I will be taking reservations for the supper following the church service. The meal is beef stew, cornbread, and apple crisp. It is $6 for adults, $5 for children. The play will follow. Following the service today, I'll be outside taking reservations. Also, if anybody has colonial-style costumes, we could use them, and we'll borrow them and take good care of them in return. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dory Rodner, and I bring you a message from the Mission Committee of the Collective UCC Churches of York County. We are planning another mission trip for next January. This one is to Beaufort, North Carolina, to help families who sustained damage in Hurricane Irene. If that's something that resonates with you, you'd like to join in that adventure for some physical work and spiritual work, I will be out in the atrium after church, and I'll fill you in on all the details.
Good morning. I'm Jane Kircher from the mission team, and if you look in your bulletins, there are envelopes that say Joyful Harvest on them, and the mission team is doing a collection for Joyful Harvest, which is an organization in Biddeford, and your donations will be locally used. And we have Shay Stewart-Belay here with us this morning, who will tell you a little bit more about their work. Thank you.
Hello, I want to tell you a little bit about the work of Joyful Harvest Neighborhood Center. We're a faith-based community center located on Main Street in downtown Biddeford. We've been around since the late 1990s, and I know I spoke here last year, so many of you are probably familiar with me. Basically, within our program, we have grown a lot. We have multiple programs. We have our flagship program, which is our after-school program, which for the 2011-2012 school year ended with 142 kids registered in that program. We also have a summer enrichment program that for 8 weeks in the summer, kids can come in the morning, participate in various activities, and receive a free lunch. In addition, we partner in late August with various agencies in Saco and in Old Orchard to do a school supply drive. At the end of August, in Biddeford alone, 183 kids received free school supplies. And then in December, we celebrate the season of Christmas with our Kids Shopping and Pancake event, which has grown into a rather large event where we partner with Second Congregational Church in Biddeford, and families can come out, have a free breakfast that's actually served to them. Kids can visit with Santa, and kids also get to pick out gifts to give to their families. One of the things I should mention about the programs that we provide at Joyful Harvest, they're all free. There is no cost for any family to participate in any of our programs. And while our target demographic over the years has always been primarily low-income families in Biddeford, with the economic changes that many people have been facing in recent years, we realize that we actually are now seeing families from Saco and other places as well, because we're what's called a low-barrier agency. Families don't have to produce income verification or anything like that. When I got a call from Jane about speaking here, I did want to mention as well some of the things that we often need. We are always in dire need of volunteers. Last year when I spoke here, Art Morissette stepped up to the plate and has been volunteering with us for the past year. So we would love to maybe speak with you about volunteering, because volunteers are the lifeline of our organization. So thank you very much.
Good morning. In some circles, I'm known as Honey. I'm sitting here and I'm musing a little bit as I think about this hour of worship. That in part I come to this worship with a sense of longing remembrances. Longing remembrances. For my mind looks back to times when I have worshiped God in other places, in other venues. But at the same time, this longing has a second component. It reaches forward I long for that from which I am yet separated, because there is in me and in you a God-shaped blank, needing and longing to be filled. Welcome to morning worship, for here we honor that longing sense for God, and here we celebrate his love for us. Let us continue with morning worship. God's love was, is, and shall be. It is here now and here. knowledge of how, having come from you, Jesus laid your benediction on all imperfect things of earth, and our souls long lost back to you, the Lord of life. Teach us by the swift glory of the Spirit how to live abundantly for faith, joyously, and with kindness. Whatever joys are ours, whatever dreams fulfilled, and deeds accomplished, let them utter their song in perfect delight and without restraint. Through Jesus Christ. Amen.
Will the children join me down front, please? Can you join us up front? A little bit of room over here, Brady. Can you find a seat? Wow, it's so wonderful to see everybody this morning. I want to look and see how many smiles we have. Let's see some smiles. Good, there's some. Yeah, it's a bright, beautiful day out there, and we're here at church with our church family, and it's a good time to smile. So today I want to talk a little bit about hidden surprises. So I thought the best way to talk about this would be to play a little game, okay? You don't have to do anything. You just have to sit there and you just have to answer my questions. So I'm going to pull some things out of my bag, and, well, you'll see how it goes. First thing I want to pull out, kind of hard. First thing I'm going to pull out is this. So what do you think this is? Yeah, just say it. Puzzle. It's a puzzle. It's a very nice puzzle. It's got a beautiful picture on it, right? But it's just a puzzle. Do you think there's a hidden surprise in it? If you went and bought this at the store and got it home, would you expect there to be a hidden surprise? Yes? No? Just say it. No. You know what? I'll prove it to you. It's just a puzzle. No hidden surprise whatsoever. Yeah. It'll get better. Now, I have, what's this? A book. Do you expect a hidden surprise in a book? Yeah, like what? I don't think so. Oh, a surprise ending, yes. You could have a surprise ending. And this is a great story, Daniel and the Lion. That's a wonderful story. And it's in the library if you ever want to read it. I hope you do read it. But there's nothing falling out of the book, right? So there's no hidden surprise stuck in there. No $100 bill or anything like that, right? No. What about this? Think there's a hidden surprise in this? No. What? There's beans in it because it's a Beanie Baby, right? Yeah, you're right. There's beans in it, but is that a hidden surprise? Oh, maybe, I guess if you like beans, huh? Anybody know what this is? What is this? Right, it's a stress reliever, right? Yeah, it's a stress reliever. Any of your parents have these? You have one. You have one. But there's no hidden surprise in it, right? No hidden surprise. What about this? I see a smile. What about this? You wouldn't look. So what is this? Yeah, but what is it? It's what? It's a stress reliever too. But if I squeeze it, that's kind of a hidden surprise, huh? Did you know it was going to do that? Yes, I didn't know it. I was looking around in my office the other day thinking, what am I going to use for this game? And I pulled this out, and I go like that. I thought, oh my gosh, I thought that's a perfect hidden surprise. Okay. One last one. What is that? It's an apple. What's the hidden surprise? Flavor. Ooh. What about you? Any hidden surprises? Is a core, yeah. But that's in all the apples, isn't it? Yeah. But if you take that apple, it's a little tricky because I only have 2 hands. Hang on to that thought. You know how when you're asking for an apple and your mom might cut it for you? And she'll cut it straight down, right? Usually that's how you cut an apple. You cut it vertically, straight down. But if you cut an apple across, horizontally, guess what happens? Let me show you. So tell everybody out there what the hidden surprise is. It's a star. Let me see if they can see it. So, if you cut an apple across horizontally, you find a star in it, right? What is that star? What do you think about when you see that star? Jesus. Why do you think about Jesus when you see that star? That's right. And the 3 kings came to see him, right? And they did that because they followed the star. What else might you think of when you see that star? God. And why might you think about God? Yeah, because God created everything, and that star reminds us of the heavens, and that star reminds us of space and everything that's out there that God created. So that's great. That's my guessing game for today. Thank you so much for being fantastic participants. And before we go down to our classrooms, I'd like us to just say a prayer together, okay? So if you could bow your heads, close your eyes, fold your hands, whatever you'd like to do to be in the spirit of prayer. Heavenly God, thank you for all those wonderful hidden surprises, and help us to find them in everyday life. And we pray all this in your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, ready to go downstairs? Let's go.
Sing the dance song, Good morning.
Good
Can you
morning.
hear me? All right. That was awesome, Peter. Okay. So good morning. This morning we will be reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, verses 27 through 38. You can find this in your Pew Bible on page 38 of the New Testament. I will be using the World English Bible for a fun translation of Mark. We are picking up here right after Jesus performs a miracle in Bethsaida. He permits a blind man to see. It's a three-part miracle where Jesus spits on the man's eyes, touches them, and then he touches the man's eyes before the man can actually fully see. The number 3 in our reading is also relevant because Jesus is illustrating 3 instructions on being a Christ follower. So, Jesus went out with his disciples into the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" They told him, "John the Baptizer, and others say Elijah, but others, one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." He commanded them that they should tell no one about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, the scribes, then be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke to them openly. Peter took him and began to rebuke him, but he, turning around and seeing his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you have in mind not the things of God, but the things of men." He called the multitude to himself with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wants to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake and for the sake of the good news will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? For what will a man give in exchange for his life? For whoever will be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man also will be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." May this reading be blessed and be made relevant to us by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Am I coming through it all? No. Where's my son? working. Okay. Is that all? Now? Now it's working. There we go. So we'll go with this one. We'll use this, turn off the other. When I was sorry about that inconvenience, but that's what makes life fun, isn't it? Sure. You accept it, I do. When I was thinking about this sermon, the first thing that came to my mind was familiarity breeds contempt, in the sense that we as Christians think we know Jesus. And perhaps we do. Maybe we don't know him as well as we think we do. And I had written half the sermon, and then I thought, lying awake one morning about, I think it was Tuesday morning, about 3 o'clock, I realized, that's too easy. I don't want to go there. It isn't much fun. I don't think it's very interesting. So I went back to the drawing board, and I began thinking about how I would name this sermon. And it occurred to me that in T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, there's a vignette there where the poet puts upon the lips of the narrator, who is the third that is always walking beside you? And I thought, there is the title and there is the theme. Who is third that is always beside you? And in Eliot's poem, there's a footnote that refers to the explorations of Sir Ernest Shackleton. And it's with that footnote that I wish to begin. The third, who walks always beside you. Shackleton, who was a principal figure of the heroic age of Antarctic exploration, in his book South, he described a certain traumatic occasion when it seemed that he and the other men, 2 others with him, included one more member than could actually be counted. And Shackleton wrote that during that long and racking march of 36 hours over the unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it seemed to me often that we were 4, not 3. And so, encouraged by Shackleton's candor, other survivors of edge-of-the-world scenarios have since come forward and reported the same experience, always the presence of another. The alleged presence of this other was the subject of a book later by John Geiger called The Third Man Factor. And you and I, probably skittish of the supernatural, kind of angularly move with our minds toward, well, it's just a way of coping, a coping mechanism. But I think more wisely, we ought perhaps to say, such has been reported, and let it go. We do not know, but such has been recorded. And T.S. Eliot alludes to this third man factor in his narrative poem, The Wasteland, further associating it with the story reported in Luke's Gospel of Jesus joining the 2 disciples on the way to Emmaus. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you, gliding, wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that beside you? Today we count you, and there's me, that's 2. Just count again. 1, 2. But suppose I count a 3rd time. 1, 2, and let us count a 3rd. Imagine, let us just risk suggesting that perhaps there is one more than ourselves. Did Jesus not say, I am with you always? Jesus makes a 3rd. Now, of course, this is the heart's way of counting. How then are we to understand this kind of arithmetic? Can we, without a fact in hand, make the case that Jesus is indeed with us? The question, however, I think runs into infinity, and the mind asking for proof cannot go there. But the question is insistent. Is there a 3rd who walks beside us? Now, answering, we might first confess to a God-shaped blank at the puzzling center of our beings. This emptiness is the shape of a deep down longing. And our space probes refigure this longing, saying our question among the stars, are we alone? And there is that in us which rebels against our being orphaned on a wayward planet. And this longing makes the imagination soar, and we long for that from which we are separated. Are we the only personal planet in cosmos? There is in us an awareness of an inner conspiracy hinting of unknown presences and unknown worlds. And we act out this conspiracy when we participate in the sacraments of the church, reminding us of who was and who is and who is to come. Poet Denise Levertov identified that longing, this longing, writing that the mind's far edges twitch, sensing kinships beyond reach. It would seem that someone on the other side of the world's window pane is trying to get our attention. Helen Keller, very soon after she was able to speak in her new and strangely indirect language, allowed that in her silent world she already knew of this other one, this 3rd. Hers was a heart knowledge. She counted the others, and she counted herself. And she always came up with a 3rd beside her. However, her knowing was a heart knowledge, and not a knowing like 2 + 2 = 4. Just so. The Christian's heart knowledge, though already interiorly sensed, takes further compass bearings from our scriptures, the Bible. And yet, in doing so, we are cautioned that the Bible itself is also agnostic. Now we see in a mirror dimly. Now I know in part. It's a slap upon the hands of those who would take Scripture literally. So the biblical story is only a partial telling, never giving the whole story or telling exactly how things are. The child's question, who is God? And the scientist's problem, how can something come from nothing? These questions are possibly evidence that infinity is the check rein on our ever coming to final knowledge of things as they are, even our biblical writings. And it would serve us well when reading our Bible to remember the Navajo shaman who, in telling his stories, reminded his hearers, I don't know if these things happened this way or not. However, it is a true story. But suffice us to know that the earth is our personal place, possibly the only personal habitation in the universe, and that mystery underlies our lives. And here we are besieged by wonders that shall always astound us, and truths that will always confound us. And yet, on this one and only known personal planet, the Word came to be flesh and dwelt among us. We live on a visited planet. God, invisible as God, whose ways are not our ways and whose thoughts are not our thoughts, has become present to us in Jesus the Christ, who is the third, who is always near. Invisible to us and yet present to the heart. The essential is invisible to the eye, said the fox to the little prince. What is essential to our wholeness is the faith that our lives are held and valued by a love encompassing both our whence and our whither. What is essential to our wholeness, as the poet Wordsworth wrote it, is the conviction that we have come into this world trailing clouds of glory. What is essential in our wholeness is being possessed by the hope that having come from God, we shall also return to God, who is both our joy and our home. And it is the church that keeps alive this rumor of angels. It is the church that lives possessed by this longing, having given itself to those heavenly absences made present to the church by the invisible Spirit of God's presence among us. In part to be captivated by this longing, that in itself is salvation. You and I would not pray except that our hearts are possessed of the hope that there is one outside and beyond the boundaries of our thought and toward which all longing yearns. It is this common longing for the presence of the third in our lives that makes you and me brothers and sisters. St. Augustine said that what makes us members of the same community is that we love the same things. And so the first Christians saw in Jesus God's answer to the question, who are you? Jesus was God's speech about himself as the lover of our souls. His name shall be called Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. Already we know something about the truth of that. On a New Jersey mudflat, there's a sign with a twist. Our erasers rub out mistakes in any language. And we may add, however, not in the language of personal need. Nor can they rub out all that soils and spoils the planet. It is God's speech from the height of the middle cross that speaks both in the language of our need and in the language of our planet's need. But what kind of planet? Our times are set in crisis. P.D. James alludes to the dilemma of our planet so mixed with evil and good in her novel, The Private Patient, through the silent musings of her main character and the last, or near the last, paragraph of the book. And she had Clara. She slipped her hand into Clara's and felt the comfort of her responsive squeeze. And she thought, the world is a beautiful place, a terrible place. Deeds of horror are committed every minute, and in the end, those we love die. If the screams of all the earth's living creatures were one scream of pain, surely it would shake the stars. But we have love. It may seem a frail defense against the horrors of the world, but we must hold fast and believe in it, for it is all that we have. And we have love. More, we have Calvary love. God's love in Christ is our defense against all in life that would take us down. And this love of God is everywhere available to us in the third, who is always within hailing distance. Only that we recognize him when he is near. Will we be able to recognize him when he is near? I'm reminded of Emily Dickinson, who said that the grace to terminate is a specific grace, and so I want to terminate now. But with this story. Several years ago, following the Christmas holiday, while I was pastoring a parish in Rockford, Illinois, I drove our son, Peter, back to Albuquerque, where he was stationed at the air base. On our last evening together, we had dinner at a modestly fine restaurant. And from where we were seated, I could look into the kitchen because there was a door open. And at one point, I caught the proprietor in an altercation with a lean, bewhiskered, and shabbily dressed individual, obviously off the street. And I heard enough to know that the man was down on his luck, that he was living rough. He hadn't eaten for several days, and he was hungry and thirsty. And watching that, seeing that the proprietor was not going to give the man a meal, I experienced a kind of whispering within me. You could invite him to your table, but perhaps maybe it's better not to become involved. And that interior dialogue went on for a few moments until I dismissed my thoughts. And dear God, to this day, I wished I had become involved. Having been banished from the restaurant, that dejected presence went by the window where Peter and I were eating and sitting. And only then, too late, did I recognize Jesus, the third who was always near. And while looking at the receding back of that man, there came to me again an interior whispering. I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. And I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. Oh, how dearly, dearly do I wish I could repair that broken hour. Jesus was within hailing distance, and I did not recognize him. And now the memory is forever welded to my conscience. But that memory now has the weight of prayer. Jesus, Jesus, fill us with your love and show us how to serve the neighbor we have from you. Amen. be seated. I want to be sure I do this right. I don't hear very well. I hear when my wife calls me for dinner. When I was a little boy, my father said you could hear a candy sack unwrapping a half a mile away. But I'd paid for that in my old years. So I have asked Pam Moline to come up and field your prayer requests, if that's a right way of saying. However, I want to honor something from Mary Johnson. She asked me earlier, and I did not want to forget. You will find caring cards in your pews, and there will be ways to respond to folks that may be named, folks that are in your own heart now by using these caring cards. So please advantage yourself of them. And I have a couple of requests first. Pam, is it all right?
Do you want me to do this?
Let me just do this.
Okay.
No.
This morning, we are asking for prayers for Jesse Beckner, whose battalion was attacked in Afghanistan on Friday. For Heather, Jesse's sister-in-law's brother. I also have a message from Vicki Cronin, whose husband Bob had a severe stroke on Tuesday evening. And she wrote to me and said, Pam, please tell the congregation that the doctors looked at Bob's MRI and saw a severe stroke. Then the doctors looked at Bob and saw a contradiction, a true medical miracle. He is still in the ICU, but the plan is to stabilize him, move him to a step-down unit, and then on to New England rehab. The doctors have told me that this may take months or even a year. But Bob is a fighter, and we are determined to have him home as soon as possible. Thank you to Doug and to Merle for keeping us strong and positive. We thank all of you for your prayers and heartfelt words, and we ask for that to please continue. This is going to be a long road. Please don't forget us. We will have new struggles day to day and month to month. But I have my husband, and our children have their father, and for that we are blessed. Thank you all so much. Bob, Vicki, Christina, Michael, and Nicholas. Please keep them in your prayers. And the deacons come forward, please. And prayers. Heather?
Hi, my name is Sheila. The first one, when I got home this morning, I was looking at the news about Israel, Egypt, Iran, and I'm praying for the same thing that I prayed for in 1970, world peace. So I'd like to say a prayer for world peace. And another thing is when I lost my job 4 years ago, I had to downsize everything, which was totally fine, like a lot of people. But I'm looking for a rental for just myself and my cat, Bella, who's my baby. Someplace that's a little safer. I work 2 jobs, so I work 64 hours a week. So I'm either at work or I'm asleep, so I don't bother anybody. So if you know anybody, thank you for the consideration and bless you.
Thank you, Sheila. Patrice?
I would like to ask prayers for all the young men and women that are in Afghanistan that are trying to keep us safe. For those that are looking at what they feel are friends and they're not friends. So please keep them all in your prayers.
Thank you, Dawn. Lou?
I have 2. A big shout out to Chris. She did a wonderful job this morning. I know she was really nervous about it, but I knew she could pull it off. And a big shout out to Pilgrim Lodge. I was supposed to be there this weekend for the women's retreat, and due to economics, I couldn't make it, but I know Lynn Beals is there and Cindy Howard is there, and I'm very jealous, but maybe next year.
Tracy.
I have a message of joy. On behalf of the 250th Anniversary Committee, the museum has opened a display beginning this week of things that they have from our past. Thank you.
I have two prayers this morning. First one is one of joy. Our granddaughter from Georgia called us last night, all bubbly. Her fiance popped a question. And here's how we popped the question. He took her to a very extravagant restaurant and then took her for a walk on a beach outside the restaurant where she found a circle of 400 roses and 100 calla lilies. And he took her inside the circle, knelt down, and asked her to marry him. Now, we're prayers for the joy there. Our second one is one of kind of awe. A girl we've known since she was 10 years old is now in her 50s, and she's now the assistant director, deputy director for intelligence for Southeast Asia for the United States government. And the awe is, we always knew she had a lot, but she will need all the prayers she can get in that job. Thank you.
Heather, up here, please.
I have two prayers of thanksgiving. One is for having my family and people I love with me, for sure. And then the other one is I am lucky enough to go around the state teaching. And a program, it's kind of like the DARE program. And I had a little boy this past week reveal that he was in an abusive home, in an abusive situation. It is the third child that God has put in my path this year to intervene with. And I just want to give thanks to God for his courage and being able to be in the right place at the right time and having ears open to be able to hear the cries of people who are in misery, and hopefully we can help them.
Trace.
Hi, I'd like to ask for prayers. I have a good friend, Jamie, who I just found out her husband is battling colorectal cancer. And, they're relatively young, 48. They have 2 young kids. And he has had chemotherapy now, and he's having surgery on the 25th. And then he's going to have another long road of chemotherapy for another 4 to 6 months. So I would just like to ask for prayers for him and for their family for the best possible outcome. Thank you.
Sabina.
I wish to ask prayers of comfort, healing, and hope for Gail White, whose husband Joe passed away this week after 47 years of marriage. I've been visiting them for the past 3 years, and there will be a memorial service at their home in Brentwood, New Hampshire this coming Saturday.
Blessings for Karen and Doug, who are in Chicago for the opportunity for Doug to baptize his new baby grandson.
I'm sorry.
Several of us from this church were able to go to Acton last Sunday afternoon for the installation service for Abby Lynn Haskell. It was such a joyful celebration, and I think that First Parish has very much a part of that, and our hearts are with Abby as she starts as senior minister in the Acton Church. And so I just give a prayer of thanksgiving for Abby and for the Acton Church.
Pam, I would,
Web community.
among the calls that I've made this week, 2 of them I would lift up. That Alan McGinnis is at St. Andres, and I'm sure he would covet your prayers. I visited with Peg Tyrell at Southridge also. Let's remember her in our prayers as well.
from our web community.
And before the web community, a prayer for my brother-in-law, Bill, who is in the hospital with infection on one of his heart valves. And once that's under control, he will need to have that valve replaced.
Our one prayer from the web community from Jane thanks that she is well enough to be home, and continued prayers towards wholeness.
We have heard these requests for prayer, and I want that we should honor them in our hearts in a moment of silence. I am mindful of what the German poet Rilke said of God. With his left hand, God governs the creation. His right merely reposes on his knee. Long ago, I decided with the poet that God was in this business of caring for you and me. And it is my faith and your faith that makes us feel at home in the universe. Let us in our hearts offer up again prayers on behalf of these whose names we have pronounced in the presence of God. Let us pray. O God, you who spoke the heavens into being, the eternal and everlasting vow, to whom we would say our hearts, please hear our prayers. We speak into the void, knowing that the place of silence is your listening place. Our words are frail, they falter, they do not carry the freight of our true need. And often lacking in self-knowledge, we may not know what it is we really desire from you. Forgive us for this failure of self-care. Cause us to see ourselves as children of your love, and make us to trust the sheer mystery of being. Enliven us with the knowledge of your attendant presence, and with a sure awareness, however we may falter and fall, that yet underneath are your everlasting arms. O God of wisdom and mercy, we have come to these final weeks of political tussling, and we ask that you might give us and this nation's peoples a spirit of discernment. Arm our hearts with a sense of being of one blood and of common destiny, and set us against those who would inflame our passions, creating divisions in our common life for the sake of securing seats of privilege and power. Rule against the arrogant and the self-serving, whether they are in our churches or the halls of government, and turn us from our strident individualisms which militate against the common good of nation and community, and stir us to righteous indignation in the face of those who misuse speech to disparage and slander, whether by lie or innuendo, just and faithful servants in our land. Give us grace to know that life can get broken, and that crying is a lonely business, and that there are men and women so lonely, they believe that you, God, are lonely too. And so give to each within hearing of this prayer a tender heart that wills to seek out the isolated and sometimes desolate. Make us all persistent peddlers of your love in hard places. Teach us such meekness of heart and mind that sharing this temporal world with one another, we may withhold our judgments, seeing that life is so brief, so beautiful, so mixed with darkness and tears, and yet so quick to blossom into joy. When loving the other, we find ourselves suddenly awash in peace. And you, God, you have given to us this lovely season, odors of harvest time in apple orchard and hayfield. You ravish our spirits with sights of yellow and red leaf against cloudless blue skies. You instruct the wind, learning its oldest music over salt marshes. You reveal your power in the thunderous clap of rolling wave and pounding surf. The stars march across the heavens at your command. Your loving care for your creation is signaled over and again in all places in the earth and in the heavens. Enable us, dear God, to lift our astonished faces in thanksgiving for the gift of being and for these aperitifs of your kingdom, through Jesus the Christ our Lord. In our household, Evie heads up the House Budget Committee. And throughout our marriage, now 50 years come January, we agreed that we should make a living by what we earn. And we also settled upon the fact that we make a life by what we give. How is it with you? What is the shape of your life? Daily I must ask after the shape of mine. We make a living by what we give. We wait on you for your tithes and for your offerings. hearts that no unworthy affection can drag down. May God give you comforted hearts that no tribulation can wear out. May God give you loving hearts that no unkindness can defeat. In all things, may God give you a cheerful and buoyant spirit and the peace that goes with all who seek God's will for Christ's sake. Go in his peace.